I've seen that when you come out of a very dark place, your joy and happiness are different, and everyone can see that. Because you've been through darkness, you measure it and see it in a different way. Rebecca Lamb has just told the truth about Marcus Lamb's death that has been kept secret for years. For a long time, no one questioned the official story, but now, shocking new information has come to light that could change everything. What did Rebecca keep from you, and why did she finally tell you? As word gets out, everyone's attention is on Joni Lamb. Her first response made everyone wonder, was it shock, anger, or something deeper? The Lamb family used to be united in their faith, but now there is a lot of talk about them, and Marcus Lamb's legacy is in danger. The world now knows the truth, but is it ready for it? There are more and more rumors that Marcus Lamb has died. The news of Marcus Lamb's death caused a lot of talk among Christians, which shocked many people. But as time went on, more and more people asked questions about how he died. Marcus was the founder of Daystar Television Network and for many years was a major figure in Christian television. Millions of people loved him for his faith, his preaching, and his steadfast dedication to sharing the gospel. At first, his death was thought to be caused by problems from COVID-19. It was a sad but reasonable result, given the global crisis. But as the weeks went by, tales started going around that made people wonder if the official story was really the whole truth. There were first only whispers of rumors among Marcus's close friends and family about what was going on. There were different opinions on whether Marcus had been sick for a long time before the pandemic, or whether there were deeper problems that led to his sudden decline. People started to wonder if there was more to the story than what was said in the official cause of death notice, which was problems from COVID-19. The people only knew what they were told, so they had to guess. Was COVID-19 really what killed him, or was there something more going on? Some people who knew Marcus said he was fighting more than just the virus. It was said that he had been hiding a number of long-term health problems from the public for a while, such as heart problems and other conditions that kept coming back. His death seemed almost too quick and out of the blue, especially since he had been looking pretty healthy just a few weeks before. Were there clues that were missed? Does he have close friends and family who know more than they say? Speculation was fanned by rumors that the Lamb family was keeping quiet about the news. Many people admired how dedicated the Lambs were to both their work and their personal lives. However, the strange silence that followed Marcus's death made people wonder what was going on. Why weren't they talking about what had happened in a more honest way? Some people started to wonder if the family was lying, maybe to keep the network's image in good shape or to avoid being embarrassed. Marcus may have been dealing with something that was too private or taboo to talk about in public. Or was there a deeper, darker reason for his death that no one was ready to reveal? Theories started to take shape. There were claims that Marcus was under a lot of stress in the months before he died. Daystar was a multi-million-dollar TV network that wasn't easy to run. Some sources thought that the stress of being in charge of such a huge organization and being in the public eye for so long had really hurt his health. Could the stress have made his rapid fall worse? There seemed to be a link between his personal problems and his health. Some people thought Marcus might have been involved in a financial scandal or legal trouble and that his death happened at a time when things were finally coming apart behind the scenes. Even though these claims were never proven, the Christian community was shocked by the thought that the Lamb family might have been hiding something. It was said that Daystar, a network based on religion, was being lied to and covered up. It came from Texas, where Marcus Lamb, the controversial CEO of a Christian TV station, had died after his fight with COVID-19. This past year, the conservative televangelist got a lot of attention when his network, Daystar, gave hours of airtime to groups and advocates against lockdowns and vaccinations. Maura Barrett, who works for NBC News, has the story. Marcus Lamb, a journalist who spoke out against the COVID-19 vaccine and told hundreds of millions of people around the world they don't even know what is in the shot. He died after fighting the virus. On his network, which is one of the most famous with evangelical Christians in the country, he often shared false information. He told his son they're giving shots to people whose immune systems are already weak. He said it was God's work. Critics and friends alike have even said that Marcus may have been depressed or having other mental health problems that were being kept from the public. Lots of people knew Marcus for how well he led and preached, but some thought that the stress of the ministry might have been bad for his mental health. A lot of people found it hard to believe that someone they loved could be hiding pain. But what if Marcus had been suffering in silence? Could that have sped up his decline? Something more might have been going on below the surface than anyone thought. There was a lot of talk about these reports in the news, which is always looking for a story. The news started to look into Marcus's past more, hoping to find anything that could help explain why he died so quickly. More reports started to spread after interviews with former co-workers, friends, and church members. Some people close to Marcus said that he had been in hidden talks with other important people in the church world, which had left him emotionally and spiritually drained. Was there a crime going on behind closed doors that Marcus didn't want anyone to know about? Could the stress of having to deal with tough events in his personal life have made his health worse? There was more and more fighting among Christians as the story spread. Some fans and friends came together to show their support and sorrow for the Lamb family during this very sad time. They were sure that Marcus's family had done everything possible to help him and that the formal cause of death should be taken at face value. Marcus had been a religious man, a leader in the Christian society, and a loving husband and father. Some people thought it was rude to question his death, which was a sad loss. Some people, though, thought that the Lamb family owed their following an explanation. They thought that keeping quiet about Marcus's death was making people guess, and they thought that the truth, whatever it was, should come out. Some people went so far as to demand on social media that the Lamb family be more open about how Marcus died. As time went on, the stress grew even higher. People had different ideas about how much the family should say and whether the public was being kept from knowing the truth. Idea that caught on quickly and a lot of people believed was that Marcus's death wasn't as easy as it seemed. Some people thought that the mental breakdown was caused by the stress and strain of the pandemic and health problems. Others thought that Marcus might have been dealing with guilt or unfinished business from the past behind closed doors, and that his death was a result of the mental toll these problems had taken on him. The Lamb family mostly kept quiet despite all the stories. The widow of Marcus, Joni Lamb, had spoken out about her husband's death. Though it was carefully written and didn't give many details, it was still unclear. She obviously told him how sorry she was, but she didn't say anything else about Marcus's last days or what was wrong with him. The silence made things worse. Joni seemed too upset to say anything. Was there something else she wasn't saying? As more people learned about Marcus Lamb's death, they began to wonder what really happened. It became clear that the story of Marcus Lamb's death would not go away quietly as time went on. More and more questions were being asked, and the Lamb family, who had once been seen as strong and religious, was now in the middle of a storm of rumors and doubt. What did really happen? It seemed like the truth about Marcus's death was pretty easy, but was there something else going on? As the stories went around, it looked like no one, not even Marcus's close friends and family, knew the truth. I was taking care of Marcus at the hospital on his last night, and around 3 a.m. she looked at me in the dark room where I was serving and said, "Look what you have done to this family." I texted my mom and said, "I can't do this anymore." I told God, "You feel the pain of my heart. Me and my child are ruining this family." He replied, "I know. My God, you're protecting me. You'll get me out of here." That was my last night. He died the next day. Jobs that Marcus Lamb has had, and his marriage to Joni Lamb. It's safe to say that Marcus Lamb had an amazing career. As the founder of Daystar Television Network, his goal was to use media to reach millions of people with the message, and he did so far beyond anyone's hopes. Marcus was a powerful figure in Christian radio and TV. Because of his hard work and commitment, Daystar became one of the biggest Christian networks in the world. At the heart of everything he did were his love for faith-based TV and his desire to share the gospel with others. Marcus gained a strong group of fans and watchers over the years who admired his leadership and his ability to connect with them on a personal level. He made a name for himself in the world of Christian media thanks to his charm and strong faith. Many people know his name. Marcus's career did have some tough spots, though. It wasn't easy for him to balance the needs of running such a big network with his personal life. Being in charge of a global mission meant that there were always pressures. As Daystar grew, so did the duty and criticism. Marcus was under a lot of pressure, but he was determined to run the network honestly and build something that would help spread the gospel word far and wide. But his personal life was hard because of the weight of the ministry and the constant attention from the media. While Marcus was working, he was often seen with his wife, Joni Lamb. She was his life partner and mission partner as well. Joni had been with him from the start, and the two of them made Daystar the successful network it is now. People often use their marriage as an example of faith and loyalty, and they seem to be unable to do anything without each other, at work or at home. With her strength, grace, and unfailing support, Joni was a key part of Daystar's growth. She was often seen hosting shows and interacting with the crowd just like Marcus did. They were together because they both wanted to spread the faith and help other people. For a long time, they were seen as the ideal Christian pair. Many people praised the way they worked together and had a family together. It did have some hard times, though, like any marriage does. Marcus and Joni both had to deal with the difficult parts of their public lives and the constant pulls from the outside world. They worked next to each other, but running Daystar often pulled them in different ways, so they didn't have much time to spend alone. They stuck together and helped each other through good times and bad, even though things were hard. Their marriage had its ups and downs, just like any other, but Marcus and Joni stayed loyal to each other and their goal. That being said, living such a famous life came with its own problems that wouldn't become clear until much later in their lives. Remember this for the future of Daystar. The cloud of God represents God's presence and power. And there are so many. Your mom just named a bunch of great churches in the Metroplex that used to be the best. But when they stopped being led by the Holy Spirit, the cloud, the blessing, and the favor moved on to another church. Wow. And we take that for granted. You must always be led and guided by the Holy Spirit in all your decisions, attitudes, and ways of thinking if you want the blessing to continue on your life, on your marriage, on your family, and on Daystar. Amen. Joni Lamb's part in ruining the family, and Rebecca's anger. An important part of the growth of Daystar Television Network has always been Joni Lamb. She became famous in Christian media because she co-founded the organization with her late husband Marcus. People looked up to her because they thought she was kind, strong, and had strong faith. People thought that Joni and Marcus's marriage showed how much they loved each other and worked together. They built their relationship on faith and shared goals. Along with each other, they made Daystar one of the biggest Christian TV networks in the world, reaching millions of homes around the world. There was a lot more going on in their marriage and in the Lamb family behind closed doors, though. Daystar did well, but the stress of running such a big business and being watched by the media all the time started to affect Joni and Marcus's personal lives. One reason she and Marcus started to fight was the stress of managing a global network. Another was the mental strain of a marriage that was under a lot of stress. Their relationship started to fall apart over the years. They were seen as the perfect Christian power couple by everyone else, but things weren't really as perfect as they seemed. Joni had always been very protective of her family and her mission, but family members started to talk about how things were getting tense. Marcus, who used to be the dynamic boss of Daystar, had become less close to everyone and often hid away to deal with personal problems that he never talked about in public. Joni, on the other hand, seemed more focused on her job and the network. She was putting all of her energy into the public part of their mission while their marriage was slowly falling apart. For their kids, especially Rebecca, this made them feel more and more angry. Rebecca saw her parents balance their busy personal lives and well-known jobs as a child, and she had always admired her mother's strength and determination. The older Rebecca got, the more she saw that her mother's love for Daystar seemed to put the family last. Joni had worked very hard to keep up a perfect image, but it started to feel like a show. She saw how her father, who used to be strong and slowly the lively figure turned into a shadow of the man he used to be. As Marcus pulled away from his family, she saw that he was stressed out by his duties and, in her eyes, Joni's drive had made their relationship difficult. For Rebecca, this made her feel deeply betrayed. She had always been close to her dad, and it was hard to see him get worse. We gave all of our evidence to several reporters, including the police department. A reporter called Daystar on Friday, November 15th to get a comment, and I was fired the next day, Friday, November 16th. Some scary things happened, like being followed by private investigators and threats to hurt us. Even though these things kept happening, we felt like we had no choice but to talk to a journalist. As the saying goes, when you bring something to light, things get better, so that's what we did. Yes, and I really felt from the Lord that even though I had been hurt a lot, I should stay in the position that God had called me to and not leave it. Right now, Susie and I are at an undisclosed location because we don't feel safe at home. Please know that all of the evidence has been given to Julie Roy, who is writing a story that will be out soon, as well as to several national reporters. As of this afternoon, they should be writing stories that will be in the news very soon. We never thought this would be our lives. We begged God for months that He would change our paths, but we have to obey in the end. You have to speak, He said. It would have been easy to just walk away, but if He says, I'm calling you to do this, we have to do it. What hurt her even more was that she thought her mother had something to do with it all. In public, Joni had always been there for Marcus, but Rebecca couldn't help but think that her mother's love for the network had made her love for the family less important. She began to think that her mother cared more about keeping up the picture of a perfect family in church than about taking care of the relationships in the family. Although things were getting worse in the family, Rebecca's anger toward her mother grew stronger. She started to think that Joni's drive for success had become more important than the health and happiness of her family. She saw her father's physical and mental health start to get worse, and she couldn't help but wonder if Joni's fierce drive for success had something to do with it. Rebecca thought that her mother had let the demands of the church take over their lives, leaving little time for personal connection or mental support. She got angry at Joni for not seeing how bad things were getting for their family, how hard it was on Marcus, and how it was causing their marriage to end. Even though Rebecca got older and learned more about how her family worked, her anger toward Joni only grew. She saw how her mother took charge of the public story and made them look like a unified family, but behind the scenes, the cracks kept getting bigger. Rebecca thought that her mother's need for perfection and her worry about keeping up the appearance of a perfect ministry were making their family unhappy. She had a hard time accepting that the woman she had looked up to as an example was now the one she thought had caused their family to fall apart. Rebecca started to talk about how upset she was with close friends in secret. She felt cheated when her mother wouldn't admit that their family had troubles. She talked a lot about how Joni had cared more about how she looked to the public than how her father felt. She talked about how hard it was for her to see her mother keep going with the church while Marcus's health kept getting worse. Rebecca knew the truth. Her mother's actions had caused a lot of problems for the family. People in the Christian media world were aware of the rising conflict in the Lamb family. As word got out that the Lamb wasn't perfect after all, people began to wonder what their real relationship was like. Some people thought that Joni's desire for success had put mental space between her and Marcus, which had caused him to fall. Others thought Rebecca's anger at her mother wasn't just about the ministry, but also about how Joni's acts had changed the way their family worked. Joni was still worried about how people saw her, though, through it all. She kept putting herself forward as the strong, stable person in the church, always ready with a smile and a word of faith. There was a lot more going on behind the scenes. Once known for being strong and united, the Lamb family was now dealing with the effects of years of secret fights, with anger and betrayal still simmering below the surface. As the rumors spread, it became clear that the truth about the Lamb family and Joni's part in their broken relationships was a lot more complicated than anyone had thought.